I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a full quorum with council members Clay, Karn, Allen, and Gay. At this time, I will turn it over to our city manager, Ms. Darnetta Tyus.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. We are very excited to be here to present the third budget briefing, and we are focusing on strategic goal number 3 and beginning strategic goal number 4 today. So number 3 is airport relations, which exists in partnership with the executive office, and then we will turn it over to the leadership of our illustrious police department to go through their particular budget. So I'm going to start off with reviewing the executive office budget at your pleasure.
All right. Starting on page 4, I don't think anyone directly reports to me. It's my understanding that the executive assistant reported to you. So just as long as that organizational chart reflects that, because
Yes.
that's a direct line, and that wasn't my understanding. So
Yes, it is.
all right. So there are 3 pages to the executive. We'll start on page 1 with questions.
I had a question about, it says salary part-time. Who are those people, or what position is that?
The mayors,
That's who?
yes.
Oh, that's you, part-time?
Yeah, we're all part-timers.
Oh, okay.
And only the mayor is in this
All
one.
right.
You guys are in the legislative part of the budget.
Okay.
One of the things I was looking at in the backup, so I see we had a special projects administrator at one point, and now we do not. What was that? And who was that? The special projects administrator in Exhibit C.
Jackson Myers,
Okay, so he was an executive at some point?
yes, sir.
Okay. And then he switched, what do we call him now?
Infrastructure,
Infrastructure.
director of infrastructure.
Okay, that answers that. All right.
Questions on page 1? Hearing none. Questions on page 2? I had a question on line 52, 6130, miscellaneous services. What is that comprised of this year? Because it looks like we exceeded the budget fairly significantly.
Are you asking what's in the 12,000? That we spent?
17,000. It looks like we're at 438%,
17, yes.
$17,526.72.
Okay, I'm going to ask Althea to explain what's in that number. It's the actual.
Seems as though there was a charge for John W. Christian Productions for,
That's the mural.
yeah,
What was it? That was,
The mural on Main Street at the end.
What was that again?
It was the mural on Main Street.
the
that was
mural.
in this budget?
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I apologize. I'm going back because I think this applies to the entire body.
It does.
That part-time salary. That's a 5% increase as well, because I think our salaries are actually tied by either ordinance or, I think there's an ordinance that dictates our salary.
Okay.
So
if the, so it looks like the 5, we probably did the 5, right?
I did across the board.
Yep. And we'll check that, so if we should rescind that, we will.
Yeah, it doesn't apply to us unless we.
It doesn't at all.
unless we-
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
I think ours is tied to the the CPI,
Okay,
as I recall.
all right, we'll make that adjustment.
Other questions on page 2? All right, moving on to page 3.
I just had a question about the emergency pandemic expenses. Do we think we're going to be needing more, $4,000 worth? Don't know.
Just in case,
Okay,
just in case.
all right.
Any other questions on page 3? All right, and in the budget level, page 1, any questions?
Okay, I know, so airport affairs is in this budget,
Yes,
but there's no separate budget for airport affairs itself,
no,
right?
it's
So
consumed in
It's
this.
all integrated in throughout here.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay,
Right.
got it.
I believe there was a note that the 50% of the, gosh, I thought I saw that, the 50% of the salary was elsewhere. Am I incorrect about that?
It was split at one time. I don't think it's split anymore, is it? Gary, you don't have you're not
It-
split between airport affairs and
In economic development.
economic development, are you, or are you?
It's not.
It's all airport affairs, that's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay, so on the digital copy on page 13 of 162, it does say that 50% of the position is charged to economic development. So we'll ignore that, but
Got it.
okay, so on the budget level, questions on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4?
I had, excuse me, I had one question on 537121, computer hardware. So somebody's getting, maybe the assistant city manager, I'll bet.
Yep. Well, yes.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 4? And page 5 has one line that Councilman Allen has already inquired about. So we will move on to police administration.
And as we introduce our police team, I want to make sure that I continuously state that this is a stabilization budget. And that is going to be extremely important as we review the police department, the fire department, all of our public safety agencies, that this is a stabilization budget. And so with that, I proudly introduce to you all our fine police department.
Good job, Gary.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Which department would you like to
So I
start
just want to make
with?
sure you were open to the pages. Okay.
Yes.
You're right. So police administration is our first area. Page 1, questions on page 1.
I have a, excuse me, Mayor, I have a general question for the whole police department budget, actually. And that is, throughout the budget, there are things like cars and so forth that are in this budget. But assuming we approve the capital expenses at the next at the next council meeting, how does that change this budget? In other words, are there cars and things in this budget that actually we're going to be buying in this fiscal year and will not really be in the budget next fiscal year?
The car in administration is if we get a police chief, they'll need a car.
Is what?
So I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer that. So all of the equipment in the 4.9, you will find it in the department's budgets, because in the revenue we represented that we were financing them. So they're here. These are the cars. We'll start the process now with your approval on Monday to get them in, but this is the same set.
But, okay, so these are the cars that we're getting.
Yes, sir.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
But they will drop out of the 2023 capital budget because they'll be paid for this year. Is that correct? They'll be paid for in this fiscal year. They'll be paid for before June 30th, won't they?
Yes, and the dropout will be a wash. So you'll see it when we go to review the revenue. We've added how we'll finance it in the revenues. The expenses are there to as a placeholder, and so yeah, it'll be a wash.
Okay, so that's what I thought.
Yes.
Ms. Fleur Bradley, wait, hold on, shit, I think
Yeah,
she
it
wanted-
will be a wash, but we won't spend it before June 30th. We're getting your approval to start the process now.
So we're effectively encumbering it now, but we're not.
Exactly.
It actually won't get spent before June 30th?
Exactly.
Is there some reason?
I can't find 25 vehicles to purchase before June 30th, so.
You can't find the cars fast enough.
Exactly. The equipment, vehicles, it depends on the
Okay,
timing.
because
So it's being encumbered now, but we'll spend the funds when we receive
Okay,
them.
I just wanted to make sure if we're going to do it, to the city manager's point, we ought to do it and as quickly as we can, I think.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Your approval authorizes us to move forward
Right.
with that process.
Right, I was just hoping. Now, is the same thing true for the 1.8 million that we approved for the technology upgrade? Is that also, is that being spent this fiscal year or next fiscal year?
It's being spent next fiscal year, not the entire $1.8 million. It's being spread over 5 years.
Yeah, I know that. You got some in here, in this budget,
Correct.
Yes.
and so you're really charging it out against each year,
71,000, correct.
371,000 or something like that. I saw the number in there. Okay, so is any of that 371,000 is any one of those 371,000 payments included in this fiscal year?
No. Is it?
So they all are going to start with the 2023 budget.
Correct.
But we are expecting to get the equipment in before that time, is that correct?
Yes.
Good.
But our first payment isn't due until,
They will send us our first invoice 30 days after we get all of our equipment.
okay,
We got
we'll
some
discuss the
yesterday.
details. Okay.
But see, I was concerned that we weren't getting the equipment in soon enough. So when will we have all our equipment in, Chief?
We have been receiving equipment this week, so we are scheduled to start some of our training for that in May, and we are still working with them to get it done even sooner if possible, because we moved everything up. Oops, we moved everything up.
If you don't mind, could you take your mask off? Since you're not close to anybody. That's good.
Do I need to repeat that?
Okay,
Did
so
you
you're saying we're getting the equipment in almost momentarily.
Yes, we
You're going to
received some
start
this week.
training on it. Will you have all the equipment in before the end of this current fiscal year?
We will have all of our equipment for, I believe, body cameras and tasers. It's the in-car portion that they're having some chip problems that we are expecting to have it delayed. But we will be up and running as far as body cameras and tasers.
Okay, and things like laptops, for example, that we see in here, are they part of that $1.8 million upgrade? Or
No,
are they in addition to?
No, the laptops would be separate.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Carn, I know you had a question.
Was it on this one?
We were on page 1. Did you have questions on page 1?
No.
Okay. All right, any questions on page 1? We will go ahead and move to page 2.
Yes, I had contractual services. We're at 106% of that, and we will be going up to 768. And one would think, I didn't linearize it. Is that just a linear extrapolation of what we're spending now?
Well, keep in mind, we had that back payment due for one of the contractual services, and that one will reflect in this one.
Okay.
So it's not typically that high.
What back payment was that?
Was it Motorola? It was Motorola?
Yeah, that was the network, the
Right,
radio network.
right.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And while we're talking about the equipment, with the new cars coming in, say the 25 new cars, will they all have the equipment and everything that we need on it, the new equipment?
When we get the cars, we have to outfit them. So it takes a little bit longer. When we get the car, we have to send it out to be outfitted with the lights, the radio, the laptop, the markings.
But with the license readers and everything else, the new ones will have all of that.
Yes, those will be placed on through Axon,
Oh, okay.
So the license readers are built into the
the
car
Axon
cameras,
device.
correct?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Any other questions on page 2? Page 3? Moving on to the budget level. Page 1 of 5, questions? Moving to page 2. Page 3.
Let's see, I think this is page 2,
Okay.
line 6130, well, there's a bunch of those. The Atlanta job search and advertising in general. I thought I saw a billboard from us somewhere in East Point off of Willingham. Was that us?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So obviously that's not out of that advertising line, that type of stuff. Is that out of a couple $1,000 or are you spending more than that somewhere else?
We spent money for that out of promotional items for recruitment, 652-6041.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. What do those run anyway, those billboards? What did that cost us?
$5,000.
$5,000.
Yes,
How long
sir.
does it go for?
We were scheduled for 4 weeks, but we actually got about 8.
All right.
And it was on the buses and some billboards. It was in DeKalb, Decatur. We had them all over.
That was good. That was the first time I had seen us out actually somewhere nearby.
Yes, sir.
Other questions on page 2? Moving to page 3. Page 4.
What is, page 3, what is, I need my ruler. Line 6170, Patco Priority Live Scan. What is that?
Is that our fingerprint reader?
Okay, that's a fingerprint reader. Oh, okay, all right.
Any other questions on page 3? Moving to page 4. Page 5, I had a question. Under other administrative supplies, we should hopefully be phasing that out, right? That DVDs is needed because the system that we purchased is gonna allow for online exchange of body cameras and stuff. Is that fair?
DVDs as needed is sporadic. It's literally just
Right,
as needed
as-
for
yeah, I
the
mean, I
open records
understand.
request and things like that. And
Right.
sometimes we have to burn something for other agencies or something.
Gotcha.
Court.
Okay.
I have a question on the last line item, 7630. Is that the camera that we had discussed?
Yes, sir.
Can you get it for 10,000?
We're gonna do our best. We're gonna find something.
Thank you.
What is that exactly? What kind of system is it? What kind of camera system is that?
Well, we'll be looking for a mobile camera device that we can deploy into different areas that may not have an electronic source of, Ring cameras or doorbells or something like that when we need some extra surveillance of criminal activity in the
Okay.
area.
All right.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
the cameras that I purchased and then transferred over to you guys with my discretionary funds,
Yes, sir.
have you used them? Are you using them?
Have they used them yet? They have sporadically,
Yeah, there are places you can and there are places you can't connect with them.
right. So we're hoping that this mobile device will help us in places that we have trouble using those.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Any other questions on page 5? All right, moving on to police investigations. There are 3 pages in the worksheet. We will start on page 1.
I have a question again, in general. When we look at Moody's charges for R&M vehicles throughout the police department, we're getting a whole bunch of new vehicles. One would hope that in the first year of those vehicles' operations, we don't have a lot of repairs. We'll obviously have oil changes and tires and what have you, and Moody's is required to do that. But any excessive expenses, I wouldn't expect engines to blow up or transmissions to go bad, particularly in that first year. Have we made an adjustment in the Moody's charges for that?
No, sir, not for, under investigations.
Pardon?
Under investigations, we have not.
Anywhere in
No,
the
we have not.
organization.
We have not.
So
We did in patrol.
is that a potential budget savings?
You're right, the parts were taken into account.
The parts were taken into account.
Yes, sir.
But not the labor charges.
Right.
And isn't it true that we're under more or less a fixed agreement with Moody's, right? So if we're buying a whole bunch of cars and we're under a fixed labor agreement and there's a lot less labor because there's a lot less repairs and the repairs have been reflected in the parts, shouldn't we be looking into an adjustment to what we pay Moody's in general for that?
I think that's fair.
I don't know how we do that, and I think we've already approved the Moody's contract.
I would like to make sure that, like we stated, the parts for those newer vehicles would still be in there. And depending on what make and model vehicles we receive, we want to make sure that we still have snow chains and things like that available for them.
Oh, sure, but
Let me offer that by the time we get an adjustment for this year, we might not want to do, by the time we get the newer vehicles, we would have functioned with the old vehicles for almost a year. So the order time for the new vehicles, we will have our old vehicles for the majority of this year. So next year, that becomes a fair adjustment to consider.
So
No.
you saying we won't get these new vehicles until next year?
Pretty much, because the window to order the vehicles don't open up until the fall.
That was my question, too.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we won't have them till the spring, well, some of them will have, I expect.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So there was an article last week where Atlanta ordered 50 vehicles that they project will not be delivered until January of next year. So we're getting in line quickly in terms of the supply chain and that kind of thing. So we hope we'll do a little better than that in time frame. But for this year, we should not adjust just because we'll still be functioning with our existing vehicles.
Excuse me. Then we should make a note, city manager,
Yes, sir.
that when we negotiate the Moody's contract for the next time around, we take into account that we should have less maintenance.
But this year, we probably will have more because we're using those older cars,
Won't go
even
down.
further.
I'm not talking about
Yeah, next
this
year.
year's, I'm not talking about the contract that we just negotiated that
Yeah.
includes next fiscal year. I'm talking about the one we negotiate next year.
I think we're talking about the same thing,
Okay.
yes.
I agree.
All right.
In
Questions on
addition
page
to
one?
The cars, yeah, I'm hoping those, once we flip over for next year, we get them in, and those new cars should be minus repairs for hopefully 2 or 3 years if we're lucky,
Oh, yeah.
outside of routine maintenance. And one thing I also want y'all to keep in mind, because we've been through this before, when we get these new vehicles in, when they come in next year, a lot of these younger folks got the lead foots, and they will, we don't want these cars worn, slap out prematurely. So I'm hoping there's some of the older officers will explain to them, listen, we don't do a whole lot of car chasing anyway, but some people are just because it's not their personal car, they'll wear it out. And we want these cars to last, so let's just keep that in mind when they do come in. Maybe you guys give them some kind of tutorial or whatever. I mean, everybody knows how to drive. The problem is how everybody drives, if you get my meaning.
Yes, sir. We share the same expectation.
Good. All right.
Questions on page one?
This is on investigations.
Yes. Moving to page two.
What is other insurance? Line 6100, 6110. Page 2
It's
of 3.
Apex. It's Apex EPLI policy and Apex general liability.
That is correct. That's our liability insurance.
Okay. And that's separate from the regular auto insurance?
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Well, we're on the contractual services. See, it jumped up a bit here, 6170. What is that?
That is for a Great Key device. We're trying to get a new investigative tool in CID to assist us with homicides and a lot of our violent crimes, help us through solvability factors through cell phones.
Great Key.
Yes, sir.
So it's something that's like an app, or is it on your phones, or?
No, it's a software that we would hook up at the station, and if somebody is deceased, we have victims, we're able to take their cell phones through that investigation and get some investigative information from
Okay.
it.
All right, okay.
Everybody does all their business on their cell phone nowadays.
Yeah, they always say you solve the whole case on somebody's smartphone.
It would help.
Yeah.
Additional questions on page two? Page three is just totals. So going to the budget level, questions on page one? Page 2. Page 3. And page 4. Hearing none, we'll move on to police patrol. Questions on page 1?
I just have a general question about part-time. It just seems like in a couple of the other areas as well, where the part-time amount is going up. Are we expecting to use more part-time during the next year?
A lot of those part-time positions were frozen, so I'm bringing them all back.
Oh,
It's
okay.
fully funded.
Okay.
Other questions on page 1?
Yeah, I had one on, no, never mind.
Okay.
I'm good.
I had a question on position consideration. We marked off one of the positions. What did we take out? What was?
That is line 51, 5210.
That was 3 additional part-time officer positions.
How many? What?
3.
3?
Yes, sir.
What would they be doing? Just curious.
I was requesting 3 part-time positions, so they would have been able to help us throughout the agency with visibility on Main Street, helping over at City Hall, just helping us with some of the odds and ends that retired officers would be able to do, so that we could put our enforcement and all of our attention into patrol and other duties.
Would it just be visibility on Main Street, or can they also go to the other parts?
All around, just help us be more visible, people seeing officers. I know Main Street was a concern during the lunchtime hour as well, so.
Are our community police officers in this budget?
Yes, sir, they're just part of the staff. Yes.
All right.
Other questions on page 1? Page 2.
Yeah, 526110 other insurance, it went down. And I've never known insurance to go down. And if you linearized it, it ought to be about 260K based on what the actuals are. And it's at 141,218.
What I have budgeted is primarily Apex, but I believe there are other costs in there related to the jail, East Point,
It may be liability insurance.
that we paid to East Point that wasn't entered probably.
That may be.
So we may need to take another look at that line, is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
What line was that?
526110 on page 2.
So it's gone down? Because of what? I still don't understand.
Something wasn't entered, probably a detail wasn't entered. An additional detail related to the
The jail.
jail over at East Point. There's a partnership between us and East Point.
Oh, okay,
Right, so we just want to take another look at that to make sure we didn't leave something out.
okay.
Are we, so we're still housing at East Point?
Yes, sir.
What are we paying nowadays? Because I know last time I was here, where's it at now?
I believe it,
I think that comes up a little bit later, right? In jail.
it's $60-something a day, but they charge us per inmate. which has been fluctuating since the pandemic.
Okay, all right. I've got, we're still on 2 of 3, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, 7,000, 7,000, gas and oil. Do we still bid that out, or how do we do it nowadays in terms of?
Oh, I don't do the bid for the gas.
And I ask because I know, the airlines, they can hedge their gasoline for the year and whatnot, and it's funny, 3 of our airlines actually.
We just heard from Jackson recently that he had secured a 3-year guarantee on gas prices, and it saved us a bunch of money.
About $2.54, something like that,
Yeah.
$2.54, $2.52.
That's a pretty good hedge,
Yeah.
It's
So-
fantastic.
So we did hedge, good.
Yeah, he
Good.
did.
Delta had an opportunity to hedge and they didn't. And some of the other airlines did, and they saved like near billions of dollars supposedly. So that's good we did it. All right, well, that's good to know.
Other questions on page 3? Page 4? Or the one line on page 5? Hearing none, we'll move to police corrections. And I think Councilman Carn, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe line, I think 526170, yes, includes the East Point Jail contract.
What page is that, Mayor?
Page 1 of
I mean, the overall packet page,
it is on digital, it is 107.
107, thank you.
And again, the same question on page 1 of part-time, same thing, you're bringing back some part-time?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
We're on corrections, right?
Yes, sir.
I just didn't hear your
51,
question.
50, 30.
Salary part-time, we're bringing back some?
Yes, there were about 2 positions frozen.
Same thing there, okay.
Other questions on page 1?
So, overall, I mean, we're, I guess operations in terms of the jail is still kind of a minimum kind of a thing, right? Because
Yes, sir.
we're sending everyone to East Point.
Yes, sir.
And I know the logic of the requirements for 1 or 2 people in there didn't make, a
Yes.
whole lot of sense. So that's still going on.
Yes, sir.
And Union City is, now, they're still all female, right?
Union City?
That's the county jail.
The county,
Yeah.
Union Cities, in Union City. Is that still?
That's where the county female
Yeah, that's
prisoners
what, yeah,
are
I
housed.
know that, but that's what it was. I just wanted to make sure it still was. So we're only using East Point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it.
Other questions on page 1? Page 2? Moving to the budget level, page 1. Page 2. We'll move on to the municipal court.
I have
I-
a question on page 1 of 2.
I do as well. Go right ahead,
I
Councilman
do
Clay.
too.
Okay, maybe we all have the same one.
Mine's on the first line, so
The salary operating
Yep.
first line, if you'd linearize that out, it'd be 220K based on what we're doing right now. You've got 206 in there. Are we undercounting what we should be spending? We're at 90% usage at this point.
No, it could be the way it's being coded in HR, because if you look at part-time salary, where I have 117,000, 179,000 for the recommended year, there's only a actual amount of 14, so
So you're saying
make up for the difference there.
it balances out.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was my question. Councilman Allen?
It's the same thing, but I had a question about salary part-time, but I think I found out those are records clerks that they were putting in there, so.
Additional questions on page 1?
Are our clerks part-time or full-time with the courts?
We have full-time and part-time for courts.
Other questions on page 1? Moving to page 2, which is pretty darn straightforward. Budget level, page 1.
Public Defender Services, is that part of the salary, or is that a separate? That's 5450.
That is when they have to call one of the public defenders in, then we have to pay them.
I believe we contract with someone for
Right,
public defender
we do.
services, and so
Oh,
that's
okay.
one of the, I think that's one of the yearly contracts that we,
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
approve, so.
It is.
Other questions on page 1? Page 2. Moving forward to Police E911. Questions on page 1?
On 34, 2500 and 2501, it says E911 fees. Who do we get those fees from? What are those fees?
Department of Revenue, they collect those fees and then they remit them to the cities.
Okay.
The problem, Ken, is that those fees are collected based on where the phone is registered. And we've got a bunch of people in the city that have phones from all over the world, well, all over the country anyhow.
And Ambrose, you know, I talk about this maybe every other year, not every year that I was here, but I still thought it was worth an effort to take a look at that closer in terms of, you understand what Ambrose is saying, you know, because we're transient. Most people that use cell phones and dial 911 live in our rental communities and did not purchase the phone in the city of College Park, naturally. However, what's it worth to maybe put together an effort to get them to simply make a call to switch their phone operations in terms of where they're dialing? I'm in College Park now. I thought that would be worth taking a look at, because the big benefit of that is not only will we have, you know, I guess more pennies will roll in from that charge if they switch their phone, you know, origination, you know, these calls are going to be stemming out of here. I'm living here now in College Park, so my 911 calls, that money will go to College Park. But the bonus benefit of it is, because we're so transient, when they move out of here, they're likely not to switch it to the new place that they are, and we will continue to get some residual from that. And I always thought that was something that we ought to look at some point or another and just try to figure out if we could put together something to encourage folks to make that switch, so that their tax money went to College Park when they used the service and not to where they moved in from out of town or wherever they came from and bought the phone from. So, and Althea, I don't know if I thought it was something worth looking at some point, because I think that could add up, because a lot of those people will never switch from College Park if we get them to switch. For instance, if, they're coming in to pay their electric bill or something, that we have some kind of a campaign going, hey, call your phone provider and let Verizon know I live in College Park now, so my 911 service fees go to College Park. And maybe you get a $5 discount off your electric bill for switching like you're supposed to. And again, we may be able to keep that money even after they move if they don't switch it to DeKalb County, wherever they move to in 3 months. So I thought it was something worth exploring and looking at.
Well, Joe, it's particularly a good idea because right now we are subsidizing about roughly, say, 60% of the E911 fund is coming from outside of the fees that are collected.
I would imagine far more than that.
Well, if you look at the numbers here, there's $580,000 of operating transfer coming in, and the fees we're collecting amount to $373. So we're spending almost $1 million for E911, and only $373,000 are coming from the fees that we collect.
Yeah. And even when Gary was here, he always said, that obviously E911 would never make recoup or anything close to it, but in addition to the apartment communities, we're just unfairly taking these charges and missing this money because the bulk of the calls are going to be rental community and hotels.
Yep.
And we're not getting it from any of them. So I always talk about, city manager, we're not like these other cities. We've got dynamics that they don't even probably can fathom, to be frank. So I don't know what we do about that kind of thing, but I think in fairness, there ought to be something, and I think that's something maybe we need to look at on the state level next year. We got at least three state legislators coming in from vacant seats, and I work pretty closely down there at the Capitol all the time for the last 15 years or so. I want to, Ms. Tyus, I want to explore that next year and take a look, and maybe we can come up with something for hotels and whatnot and visitors that gives us a few more pennies in our direction, since we're going to be servicing all those out-of-towners. And they won't be calling 911 from their hotel room telephones. They're going to be calling from their cell phones, just like just about everyone else does. So just something to look at.
Additional questions on page 1? Page 2? Page 3 is totals. So moving to the budget level. Questions on page 1 of 3? Page 2. Page 3. Moving on to confiscated drugs. Questions on page 1 of 1?
Do we carry the budget carry forward? Is that 10,000 every year? Is that the same, or is it?
Yes. We don't budget for revenues for the confiscated or state drug funds.
So we just get the same?
By law, we shouldn't.
I have a question on 351310. We didn't confiscate any drugs last year.
35131.
30, page 1 or 2? Ain't no 1 or 2 yet?
We're, no, sir.
Confiscated drugs?
Confiscated drugs?
On state drugs. You on what?
He's on state drugs? Yeah. Page 1. No, 1 or 2.
You're on state drugs, I think.
We're on confiscated drugs, not state drugs.
Confiscated.
Confiscated drugs is only, there's,
Explain why we confiscated.
so any questions on either the worksheet or the budget level of confiscated drugs?
No.
Okay, so state drugs, Councilman Gay, go right ahead.
Well, actually, I was thinking about confiscated drugs, but then there's no state drugs confiscated. There were some in 2021. We just didn't collect any state drugs.
All of our specialized units were placed back in patrol to help us get through our transitions. So we're looking to build those back out as we're moving forward.
And the carry forwards are basically the same every year, same thing. Okay.
Yes. This year, they budgeted to use most of it for vehicles and new equipment,
Okay.
so.
Do you mind if I ask the question again? The drugs that we confiscate, is that considered confiscated drugs or state drugs?
If we seize them, then that's what will go into that state drug fund
That is,
through seizure process.
okay.
Any questions on the budget level?
Nope.
All right then. We are done this evening.
I'd just like to say, I think the police department did a fantastic job with the budget.
Can I add
Excellent
something?
job, excellent job.
I would like to just add one more thing. On behalf of our team, we really would like to extend our thank you. I thought I was gonna run late because they were stopping me in the parking lot, so that they want to make sure that I let you all know that they really appreciate you, and we do as well. So thank you all.
And we appreciate
very
you a
much.
whole lot.
Yeah, great job.
I just want to say thank you to my teams, just as with all of them. Thank you, guys. Good work.
Y'all made it very